There's at least 3 questions in there, very cleverly disguised as one and one on its own. So I'm going to take them in reverse order, really. I find this very interesting, and I couldn't come to any definite conclusions, but it has brought up a few ideas which I'd not thought about. So whoever wrote the questions, thank you very much. Let's go to Colossians 1, verse 16 and 17, just to set the foundation here. First Colossians 1, verse 16 and 17. For by God were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. Now, it gives us quite a bit of information there. First of all, it says that God made absolutely everything, and that nothing was there before him, and we'll look a bit in Genesis chapter 1 to confirm that. Also says there that the powers, he created powers, which is what angels have, and also visible and invisible. And of course angels can be visible to us or invisible. An example of them being invisible is when they loosen the wheels of Pharaoh's chariots. You can't imagine the soldiers allowing someone to go and do the wheels of their chariots without trying to stop them. So obviously the angels were invisible at that point. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, and you know where I'm going. Verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowls of the air. And we know, don't we, that this is God talking with the angels who would actually go and do the work of creation. And if we go to Job chapter 38, this tells us that the angels were involved and witnessed creation. Job 38, we're going at verse 4. Job's asking the questions here. The Lord's asking the questions to Job. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof? And if thou knowest, or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations of the earth therefore are fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God, or angels, shouted for joy. So obviously the angels were there at the beginning. They worked during creation, but it doesn't actually say when the angels themselves were created. The only logical thought is it was before creation started. That's the only answer I could come up with. Some people get a bit bogged down where God says go and replenish the earth, and there's a theory that the angels lived before Genesis 1 and through probation became angels. But the word replenished, as far as I can understand, doesn't mean our English translation. It means to fill or enrich. So I wasn't going to get dragged into that discussion. But to me, the angels were created before God began the actual work of creating the earth as we know it. You might disagree with that, I don't know. Psalm 103 tells us the work of the angels in a nutshell. Psalm 103 and verse 20. Bless ye the Lord, all ye hosts, ye ministers of his that do his pleasure. Bless the Lord, all his works in all places, dominion. Bless them, O my soul. We know that angels were messengers. They had twofold role, really. One was to pass on information and messages. Think of Gabriel going to Mary and other people receiving messages directly from angels. And also it was to do specific tasks. We mentioned the wheels off the chariot. You can think of hundreds more where angels were tasked by God to do a specific thing. They were ministers of God. They didn't just suddenly decide they'd go and do this. God directs them exactly what he would like them to do. And this is where I found something interesting which I'd never thought about before. Let's go to Genesis chapter 32. Because we tend to think of angels as being all powerful and absolutely perfect. Let's go to Genesis chapter 32. Now, this might be a bit controversial, but it's worth thinking about. Genesis 32 and verse 34. This is Jacob wrestling with the angel. Genesis 32 and verse... no, it's not 32, is it?
24.
24, sorry, yeah. Genesis 24. 22, thank you. Genesis 22. So we find here that he's wrestling with the angel.
Ian,
Genesis
32.
32.
Verse 24, not 34.
Okay. So we find him there wrestling with the angel. And Jacob was left alone, who wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. It says man there, but you know, if you go to the end of the chapter, that he says, I have seen God face to face. Well, he didn't see God face to face. He saw an angel. He was wrestling with an angel. And this angel wrestled with him, but he wasn't able to break free. Now you think an angel of God would be able to... He has to ask, he has to invoke God's power to break free of Jacob. So that's something to think about, isn't it? Daniel 10. These are just ideas to throw out about angels. Probably going off the track a little bit. We'll come back to it. Daniel 10. And verse 12. We find an angel here talking to Daniel. Then he said unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day thou didst set thine heart to understand and to chasten thyself before God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me about 20 days, 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. So here we find apparently an angel who couldn't leave the place he wanted to, and he had to call in maybe another angel to assist him. Guys, these are just thoughts. Matthew 24, perhaps a more obvious one. Matthew chapter 24. And verse 36. Disciples have said, when will these things come to pass? But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So the angels have limited knowledge. God doesn't give them all knowledge, because only God's got all knowledge. So they don't know when the kingdom's going to come. Matthew 13. You'll see why I'm doing this in a minute, hopefully. Matthew 13. And verse 39. I think one of the questions was, does the guardian angel know if you're going to be in the kingdom? I found no evidence for this, but I remembered this parable. Verse 37, Jesus answered, the one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man, the field is the word, the good seed stands for the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are the angels. So at that point, the angels know which to harvest, to take to burn, and which to leave. Doesn't say they knew beforehand. Doesn't give any indication that they had pre-knowledge of this. It indicates that God told them to go and, reap up these particular people. And also, 1 Peter. And chapter 1 and verse 12. This is talking about the sufferings of Christ. Unto whom it was revealed that not unto themselves but unto us they did minister the things which are now reported unto you by them, and have preached the gospel unto you with the Holy Spirit sent down from heaven, which things the angels desired to look into. So the angels were looking into these things as well, if that's the right interpretation. So with all that in mind, that angels have limited knowledge, limited power, only the power that God gives them, I see no indication that they would know if you are destined for the kingdom or not. You might disagree with that, but I couldn't find any concrete evidence to suggest that. Now, are they omnipresent? Are they always around us, all the time? Again, the conclusion I reached is no, they're not. Why is that? I believe they're outside our dimension. I believe that they can move from here to there like that, because they appear to people. You think of Barak on his donkey, the angel was invisible, then he made himself visible. They can move very quickly from place to place. So I think they're outside our dimension of time and space, like God. They don't move within our time spheres. They're ageless. But if you go to Genesis 3, I'm not an expert on languages or meaning of words too much, but if you go to Genesis 3 verse 33, Genesis 3:33. Well, it says that God shut Adam out of the garden. He placed an angel in the garden. So he literally said to the angel, go and guard the gate. Take your sword and go and guard. The angel wasn't there all the time. He said, go and guard the gate. Do a specific task I gave you. Luke 2, last one, Luke 2. And this is at the birth of Jesus. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, so and so. So the angels left them and went back to heaven. So my interpretation of that is the angels are with God in heaven, and then go out for specific duties, specific roles, and go back to heaven. I don't believe they're sort of sitting next to us all the time. You may disagree with that. Yes, we entertain angels unawares, but that again doesn't imply that they're sitting next to us all the time. That's my interpretation of it.